It's 3 a.m. You're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and suddenly your brain decides this is the perfect time to remind you of that embarrassing thing you said in 2014, or convince you that minor headache is definitely a brain tumor, or replay every life decision that led you to this moment of existential dread. Sound familiar? You're not losing your mind. Your brain is doing exactly what evolution programmed it to do. But here's the twist. Those 3 a.m. thoughts aren't telling you the truth about your life. They're telling you something far more interesting about your brain. Welcome to the Psyche Protocol. Today, we're diving into the neuroscience of nocturnal anxiety and why your darkest thoughts come alive when the world goes dark. First, let's establish something important. You're not alone in this. Studies show that approximately 40% of people experience heightened anxiety at night. There's even a term for it in psychology, nocturnal rumination. And 3 a.m. has become such a cultural touchstone for middle-of-the-night panic that researchers actually study this specific time window. But why 3 a.m.? Well, it's not actually magic. It has to do with your sleep architecture. Most people complete their first REM cycle around 90 minutes after falling asleep. If you went to bed around 11 p.m. or midnight, 3 a.m. is right in the middle of your sleep cycle, during a lighter sleep phase where you're more likely to wake up. And here's where it gets interesting. Your cortisol levels, the stress hormone, naturally dip to their lowest point between 12 a.m. and 4 a.m. You'd think lower cortisol would mean less anxiety, right? Wrong. When you wake up during this cortisol nadir, your brain is actually more vulnerable to stress because it doesn't have its normal regulatory mechanisms fully online. But the real culprit is your prefrontal cortex, the rational, logical part of your brain that usually keeps your anxious thoughts in check. During the day, it's like a skilled negotiator telling your amygdala, the fear center, hey, that's not a real threat, calm down. But at 3 a.m., your prefrontal cortex is basically asleep on the job. Research from Harvard Medical School shows that during nocturnal waking periods, activity in the prefrontal cortex drops significantly, while your amygdala remains active. It's like having a panic button with no off switch. So your rational brain is offline and your fear center is running the show. What happens next? Welcome to catastrophic thinking, or what psychologists call catastrophizing. Here's how it works. You wake up at 3 a.m. and you remember you have a presentation at work tomorrow. A normal daytime thought would be, I should prepare a bit more. But your 3 a.m. brain? It goes like this. I'm not prepared enough. I'm going to mess up. Everyone will think I'm incompetent. I'll probably get fired. I won't be able to pay my bills. I'll lose my apartment. I'll end up alone and homeless. This isn't you being irrational. It's your neurochemistry. At night, your serotonin levels are lower. Serotonin helps regulate mood and anxiety. Less serotonin means your brain has a harder time maintaining perspective. Meanwhile, your melatonin levels are high, which, ironically, can increase emotional reactivity in some people when they wake up during its peak production. Dr. Allison Harvey, a sleep researcher at UC Berkeley, describes this as cognitive rigidity. During the day, your brain can flexibly move between different thoughts and solutions. At night, it gets stuck in loops. The same worry plays over and over, each repetition making it feel more real, more urgent, more catastrophic. There's also an evolutionary component here. Our ancestors needed to be hypervigilant at night. Darkness meant predators. Unfamiliar sounds meant danger. Your brain is still wired with that ancient programming. When you wake up at night, your brain defaults to threat detection mode. The problem, your brain can't tell the difference between a lion outside your cave and an unpaid credit card bill. To your amygdala, uncertainty is uncertainty. Threat is threat. And at 3 a.m., everything feels like a threat. Studies show that people rate the exact same problem as 60% more severe when thinking about it at night versus during the day. Same problem, same person, completely different threat assessment. Your 3 a.m. brain is literally lying to you about how bad things are. But there's another layer to nocturnal anxiety that makes it even worse, the profound sense of isolation. At 3 a.m., the world is asleep. There's no one to text, no one to call, no distractions, just you and your thoughts. Psychologists call this temporal isolation, and it's a uniquely powerful trigger for anxiety. During the day, even if you're physically alone, you're cognitively connected to the rhythm of society. People are awake, life is happening. You could reach out if you needed to. That ambient social connection provides psychological safety, even if you're not actively using it. At night, that safety net disappears. You're alone with your mortality, your regrets, your fears, and your brain interprets this isolation as danger. Remember, humans are social animals. Isolation historically meant vulnerability. Your anxiety at 3 a.m. isn't just about your thoughts, it's about the primal fear of being alone in the dark. Research from UCLA shows that social isolation activates the same brain regions as physical pain, and chronic nighttime waking can create a feedback loop. You feel anxious because you're alone, and that anxiety keeps you awake, making you feel more isolated. Interestingly, people who work night shifts or live in different time zones often report lower nocturnal anxiety because they don't experience the same temporal isolation. When you know other people are awake somewhere, even if they're not with you, it provides psychological comfort.
So if your 3 a.m. thoughts aren't giving you accurate information about your life, what are they telling you? Here's the truth. Your nighttime anxiety is often a messenger, not the message. Those catastrophic thoughts about work, relationships, or health, they're usually not about the surface-level content. They're signals that something in your life needs attention. But your 3 a.m. brain is terrible at identifying what that something actually is. Let's say you wake up panicking about money. The real issue might not be money at all. It might be that you feel a lack of control in your life, or that you're avoiding a bigger decision, or that you need more meaning in your work. Your brain latches onto money because it's concrete, measurable, and feels solvable, but it's often a stand-in for deeper psychological needs. Sleep researchers call this affect regulation failure. During the day, you have coping mechanisms. You distract yourself, you rationalize, you problem solve. At night, those mechanisms are offline, and the raw emotional material bubbles up. The key insight? Your 3 a.m. thoughts are pointing you toward unprocessed emotions or unmet needs. But you need your daytime brain to interpret them correctly. Dr. Matthew Walker, author of Why We Sleep, explains it like this. Nighttime rumination is like trying to read a map in the dark with a broken flashlight. You know you need to go somewhere, but you can't actually see the path. You need daylight for that. Common themes in nocturnal anxiety include control. Worries about things you can't control often mean you're feeling powerless in some area of your life. Mortality. Death anxiety at night often reflects unexplored questions about meaning and purpose. Relationships. Ruminating about social interactions often signals unmet needs for connection or validation. Performance. Work or achievement anxiety often masks deeper questions about self-worth. Start tracking your 3 a.m. thoughts. Write them down. Over time, you'll notice patterns. The specific content changes, but the underlying themes stay the same. Those themes are what need your attention, not the random catastrophic scenarios your brain generates. So how do you actually deal with the 3 a.m. brain? Here's evidence-based strategies. 1. The cognitive dump. Keep a notebook by your bed. When anxious thoughts appear, write them down. This isn't journaling, it's just externalization. Studies show that physically writing anxious thoughts reduces their emotional intensity by up to 50%. You're telling your brain, I've captured this. We don't need to keep looping it. 2. The 20-minute rule. If you're awake and anxious for more than 20 minutes, get out of bed. Your brain associates the bed with either sleep or anxiety. Don't let it become an anxiety location. Move to another room. Do something calm and boring under dim light, and only return to bed when you feel sleepy. 3. The physiological sigh. This is a neuroscience-backed breathing technique. Inhale deeply through your nose, then take a second, smaller inhale to fully expand your lungs. Then exhale slowly through your mouth. Do this 2 or 3 times. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system and can calm anxiety in minutes. 4. The daylight review. Make a deal with yourself. Any thought that feels catastrophic at 3 a.m. gets revisited at 10 a.m. the next day. Write it down at night, then review it in the morning.
You'll be shocked at how different it seems. This creates psychological distance and trains your brain that nighttime thoughts aren't reliable. 5. Protect your sleep architecture. Consistent sleep schedule, cool room temperature, around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, limit screen time an hour before bed, and avoid caffeine after 2 p.m. These aren't groundbreaking, but they reduce the likelihood of nocturnal waking in the first place. 6. Consider professional support. If nocturnal anxiety is persistent and impacting your quality of life, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBTI, is the gold standard treatment. It has a 70 to 80% success rate and addresses both the sleep disruption and the anxiety patterns. Here's what you need to remember. Your 3 a.m. brain isn't trying to torture you. It's doing its best with limited resources. A fear center on high alert, a rational brain that's clocked out, neurochemistry that amplifies everything, and the profound loneliness of being awake when the world sleeps. Those catastrophic thoughts, they're not prophecies, they're not truths, they're distress signals from a brain that's temporarily offline and desperately trying to protect you from threats that mostly don't exist. So the next time you find yourself wide awake at 3 a.m., convinced your life is falling apart, remember this: your brain is lying to you, not maliciously, just biochemically. Write it down, breathe, and remind yourself that you'll revisit this when your prefrontal cortex is back online, and trust that the morning will bring clarity that the darkness never could. If this video helped you understand your nocturnal anxiety differently, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the Psyche Protocol for more deep dives into how your brain really works. And here's a question for the comments. What's your most common 3 a.m. thought? Let's normalize this experience together. See you in the next one.